what if I see an attractive girl on Instagram? Will I relapse? When I was on NoFap, I used to be really anxious about triggers. Hot girls on Instagram, hot girls in real life, hot girls in my fucking thoughts. I used to always have to be on guard because I didn't want to look at girls, because otherwise that dopamine rush would come in and it would create urges. That's what I genuinely believed. Now that I quit porn using the freedom model, I no longer have to worry about literally any of this stuff. I can just go about my life and I don't have to worry about triggers. Let me put it to you this way. If you're a normal weight kind of guy, you're not really a junk food addict, you're not really an obese type of person. When you look at junk food, kind of look at it like, do I really want it? Do I really give a shit? It's really inconsequential to you. It doesn't feel as though there's this pull like there is with PMO. So that's how I'm like now with PMO, now that I've totally got all that NoFap stuff and thrown it away. I don't believe I'm addicted. I don't believe that PMO has these magical powers to relieve my stress. I just view it as a benign type of thing. And so I'm just going to describe what that's like and how to kind of overcome this confusion about triggers and dopamine going into your brain because you've looked at a hot girl on Instagram or you've thought of a thought, and how that really doesn't give you urges at all. It only gives you urges. You only want it because of that trigger, because you believe that the trigger is going to trigger you, right? Hope that makes sense. Let's go. So basically, the reason why I'm able to just look at a chick and not really want to go jerk off or on Instagram or whatever, the reason why I'm like in this state of freedom is because I do not believe in addiction. And I'm not telling myself I don't believe in addiction, I don't believe in addiction, I don't believe in addiction. I genuinely don't believe in it because I've looked at the freedom model, I've looked at the research in there, and I've looked at the logic in there, and I've come to the conclusion that the reason why I wanted PMO this whole time is for benefits that I saw in PMO. I thought PMO made me feel really good. I thought I had to do it. I thought that I was biologically destined to do it, and I thought that I could use it to kind of medicate. For example, if I got rejected at the club, I'd come home and I'd PMO to try and forget it. It was as if it was this like pseudo relationship or pseudo sexual experience. So pretty much when I no longer believe in any of that stuff anymore, I just straight up, I don't believe in it. And again, I'm not saying to myself, I don't believe it, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. I've looked through the arguments and I've arrived at the conclusion that this stuff, it actually doesn't exist. I'm not telling myself it. I really believe this shit doesn't exist. And guess what? The urges no longer exist for me. Because the urges no longer exist for me, I now know empirically with fact that it doesn't exist. Because think about it, if the urges are just held together by your own belief, and when you stop believing it, the urges go, that means the urges never existed in the first place. They never existed as this external phenomenon. It was just your desire. I especially know this to be the case because, first of all, right, with this whole process, you stop believing in addiction first. When you stop believing in addiction first, the fucking clouds open up and you're now like, okay, if I'm the one doing it and nothing's compelling me, why am I doing it? And then you look at the reasons why you're doing it, and it turns out the reasons why you're doing it are very irrational. You genuinely think that the porn video can soothe you. A video. You genuinely believe that the video can pull you. It can't. And so you go and you like whack-a-mole these myths one at a time. You get to a point where you look at the girl who's triggering you, or who would have otherwise triggered you, and you look at her and you think, instead of thinking, I'm triggered and I'm going to jerk off now, or I'm going to feel the urge and I just have to resist that urge, you look at it like, why do I want to do this? Do I need to do this? And then because you've busted the myths, you're not labouring under any of the myths as to why you need to do it. It doesn't feel like you need to do it because you don't believe that you need to do it. Not because you're telling yourself, again, but because you actually have arrived at that conclusion by going through arguments and data and being like, this stuff doesn't make sense. And then when you look at that girl again, it's like, nothing's making me do it. I could just not. And then you sort of don't. And then you're like, oh, I am free. And it's just kind of done. And it's a little bit anticlimactic, I won't lie. But at the same time, you're missing out on so much pain. So it is amazing. It is great. It is so much better than how I was before. But it's kind of like fucked up how it isn't this epic thing that we described. This is a little bit off topic, but it's not this epic thing that NoFap makes out to be. It's not this valiant battle. It's just a reframing. And when you realise, oh, it was me the whole time, there was nothing pulling me. So yeah, in summary, when you get to that point where you no longer believe in addiction, not because you've told yourself it, but because you've gone through something like the freedom model, all my videos, and you really question it and you think, oh, this really doesn't exist, it's just me. And then you go through the logical myths that you've told yourself or that NoFap's been telling you. And again, it's not your fault. You've been fed this stuff. This stuff doesn't come from your mind, to be fair. It comes from NoFap and it comes from the addiction ideology at large. When you take on these ideas and then you question them, and then you find out they're wrong, and then you question the effects of porn and you realise they're wrong, you just move the fuck forward and it doesn't bother you. Think about it. If you genuinely believe that you don't need porn anymore, you won't feel like it. Again, don't tell yourself it. Arrive at the conclusion. then it becomes like that junk food. If you're like a skinny dude and you just kind of look at junk food and you're like, it's nice, but it's not really, but I don't really need it. That's kind of how it is. And man, it's great. It's a great position to be in. This is such a better position than the no-fap position where you're constantly having to be on guard for invisible triggers that don't fucking exist. Like, that's a ridiculous position, but everyone believes it is so normalized. Everyone believes that it's like normal. It's abnormal. And you know it's abnormal because it's so confusing when you're steeped in it. It's confusing when you're steeped in it. It's frustrating. It's hopeless. But the solution is simple. I'm not saying that it's easy to figure out when you're steeped in it, but when you analyze and you gradually start to break out, it's kind of like deprogramming from a fucking cult. That's what it's kind of like. Then you're like, oh shit, I'm free to move on now. And that's how it is. Okay, so like this video because we need to spread this truth around the fucking internet. Subscribe because I'm going to be uploading more videos that are helpful. And share this video with anyone who's in the nofap stuff, who's struggling, who's steeped in it, because we need to help guys just like you get the fuck better and just be free.